وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم آمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides us in the Quran, provides guidance in the Quran to us individually and to us collectively. And the verses that talk about the collective guidance are very interesting because they deal with a different psychological dynamic in the human being compared to the verses that deal with the individual. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the individual and providing guidance to the individual, He's talking to the secret ruh inside of us that He created and that He knows motivates us and moves us. But when He talks to the community, He talks from a different perspective. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, in the verse from Al-Imran, He says, وَأَنَّ هَذَا أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is my straight path. وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. Collectively, the plural version of you follow it. Collectively. Not just individually. Collectively. It doesn't say فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. In other verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and us. He says, فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. Follow a straight path as you are ordered. Yes, individually. But there are other verses that talk about the collective. There are no ways to follow collectively except the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الصراط وأن هذا صراطي مستقيما فاتبعوه ولا تتبعوا السبل. Do not follow the multiple routes. فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ. It shall divide you. It shall splinter you into multiple groups. It shall drive you in different directions and lead you collectively astray. And there is a hint in that word, very beautiful word, تَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ. As if the roads pull you apart. The active verb تَفَرَّقَ, which is a verb whose subject are the roads themselves. So it's the roads that pull you apart. And there is a hint that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that these roads seem attractive to various subgroups of your community. Very deep, very insightful psychology of the group. This is different than the psychology of the individual. In verses, as I said, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I used as an example, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. Right? Stand up and follow the straight path as you are ordered, as an individual. Yes, al-istiqamah is very important. But as a group, there is a different level of responsibility. So therefore, Islam is not just a way of life for the individual to follow. And if you take that opinion, if you have that philosophy in your life for applying Islam, you're missing a huge chunk of the importance of Islam for mankind. And therefore you're not fully applying Islam as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would want us to apply it. This is a very significant insight. And this is a very important insight. Because without this type of understanding of the Quran, we really cannot put things in the right place. So we may take some verses that are directed toward the collective, the group, and apply it on an individual basis, and therefore become led astray. And we may take some verses from the individual realm and try to apply them on the collective realm, and then become led astray. So when we start to think as a group of what our responsibility is as a group, we ask a very important question. This verse that I read, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ, do not follow the miscellaneous ways, فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ, and they shall pull you apart. They shall splinter you. The roads, the ways, splinter you. So each group takes on a separate philosophy, a separate identity. How many of us suffer today from these conflicting identities within the community? How many today think that my identity as this sect, or this sect, or this nationality, or this ethnicity, or this color, we all see it, correct? Even if we claim to be Muslims, even if we claim to be following Islam, unfortunately, we see it way too often. We see it way too often. But today, I'm going to tell you about something very important, which is slightly different. I'm not going to talk about the identity. We will leave this for some other time, inshallah, because that disease of identity-based faith is truly a disease, a cancer that we should truly understand. It needs its own time, and I will leave it for some other time, inshallah. Today, I'm going to talk about the requirements for the collective application of Islam, the group formation according to the Quran. So when we start to think about the activity that is required, so for example, we all know the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Gather and hold tight, collectively, all of you. He repeats it twice. وَاعْتَصِمُوا in the plural, جَمِيعًا, all of you. To make sure that we don't miss this point. وَاعْتَصِمُوا, collectively, جَمِيعًا, all of you. بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ. Okay? Hold on tight to the sustaining rope from Allah. Of course, this is referring to the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is represented by the Quran. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Do not split up. Do not splinter. So this division, this splintering within the community is the biggest threat to the collective application of Islam. And therefore, the biggest threat to your individual ability to claim that you have fully fulfilled your responsibility toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, it's not enough to fulfill your responsibility as an individual. It is even not enough to fulfill your responsibility within your family or even within your neighborhood. No, there are responsibilities for every one of us within the community at large, whatever the boundary of that community. As many circles of community definitions as we participate in. So we participate in the community of our neighborhood. Be a part of that. Be a proactive, positive, contributing member of that group. If you are in the community of this society, this city, this nation, the full ummah across all of the countries, all of those levels, you are supposed to be part of that. But I'm just an individual sitting in a corner somewhere in a distant part of the world. What good can I do? What's my role? There are many roles. And again, inshallah, we will try to tackle some of those issues in future talks that, if we live, inshallah, and Allah permits us to talk about these things. Let's go back to the topic. Here, within this community, within this building, what role do we have as a part of a collective? What role do I, the individual, have as part of the whole collective? And you probably have heard this many times before, but I want you to pay attention to something today. And this is something I've been doing for 20 years in the United States. Every time I give a khutbah, I take a look around. Some mosques all across the United States, some mosques have hundreds, so I've been in mosques that have thousands, and inevitably, invariably, it's the same observation. You look around and you find a very, very tiny part of the people in attendance who are not first-generation Muslim. I want to repeat it because this is something very important for us to really understand and conceptualize. When you look around at any masjid during the Friday prayer or any of its activities, across the United States, across the West in general, even Europe, Canada, and so on, you look around and you find the vast majority, I'm talking 80% plus, and some places even close to 100%, first-generation Muslims, immigrants. Of course, there are some mosques that have, you know, the African American brothers and the Nation of Islam and all of, yes, of course. But I'm talking in general. When you average it all out, the vast majority of those mosques today are being sustained by the first-generation Muslims, and that's wonderful in one way. But it's also an early sign of a potential threat from a different point of view. The threat is that most of this work is usually carried out on the backs of a few individuals. Most of the people in attendance are passively coming to attend, and some of them, even I've heard it with my own ears, you know, make you feel like they're doing you a favor by attending. SubhanAllah, right? So I'm here to remind you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet, إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرٌ. You just remind them. فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Just remind them, because this reminder helps those who are believers. So I'm here only to remind you that don't close off your world to yourself, or even just to your family. You are part of this community, this building that we're sitting in. You are part of it. And you are counted among this community. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will account that you had this opportunity on the Day of Judgment. And you will be asked. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a hadith, he says, لا تزل قدما عبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن أربع. Among them, his time. What did he do with his time? On the Day of Judgment, a human being, his feet will not be allowed to move forward until he is questioned about four things. One of them is his time, what he did with it. What are you doing with the time that you have available to you? Some of us use it to learn, wonderful. To improve themselves, wonderful. Some of us use it to pray in the middle of the night, too quiet, rak'ah, to help you get closer to Allah. That's wonderful. But we all have extra time. And this time is a responsibility that we will hold, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us accountable for. So what are we doing with this time? Are you helping this community? Are you part of the sustainability of this community? Or were you just a visitor coming by for 1, 5, 10 years, coming in and leaving, and coming in and leaving, and after 10 years, 15 years on this, as part of this opportunity, you left as if you were never here? Are you one of those? Or are you a person who leaves clear footprints in terms of the positive works that this community has benefited from? It's just a reminder. I remind myself and I remind you that we have this collective responsibility. And collective responsibility does not go away just because we live in an individualistic society. We live in an individualistic society. Just me who is important. right? This society in the United States is all about the individual, right? Yes, but that's not the guidance of the Quran. The guidance of the Quran is that you are more than that. You're not that selfish individual. You're much more than that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides us the guidance and then holds us accountable. And we're bringing to you today both of these things. The Quran is full of this guidance, and the Quran is also telling us you will be held accountable on the Day of Judgment. كل نفس بما كسبت رهينة وأن ليس للإنسان إلا ما سعى. The human being will be held accountable to everything he achieved. Are you part of the achievements of this collective where you're benefiting today and sitting among them? Or are you just a parasite? I hate that, excuse me for that word. You're just coming in to take advantage of what somebody else has done, and then you walk away without contributing in any way, shape, or form. I know, alhamdulillah, most of us are contributing, and inshallah this will be an encouragement to put more effort into it and to take more responsibility for it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. In the first khutbah, I may have appeared to be a little bit of a accuser, but I'm not. Because honestly, in all honesty, I look around everywhere at the Muslim communities in the United States, and this community too. This is the first time I get to meet you, and I'm so honored to be able to take a few minutes of your time and perhaps impart some of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed me to learn. In all honesty, when I look at people like yourself today, sitting here, I remind myself that I'm looking at heroes, Abtal, hero, H-E-R-O. Every one of us is a hero. You see, the definition of a hero in all of the classical literature and all of the linguistic terminology, right? The hero is someone who contributes for the benefit of others despite his own pain and suffering. That's the definition of a hero. So you see all of these movies where a hero is suffering some sort of personal tragedy and he rises above that tragedy and he delivers some sort of a heroic effort to save mankind or to save the city or to save his girlfriend or whatever it is, right? That's a hero. He rises above his own personal challenges. He rises above his own negative history. He rises above his own some people in psychology call them the demons, downers, the thoughts and the experiences and your personal history that pulls you back, that puts doubt in your mind, that says you're not worth it, that says you're a fake, that says you're a hypocrite, all of those things, your collective demons. The hero rises above these things. See, by looking at you sitting here today, I can tell that number one, you recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Akbar and He has blessed you with so much, and you are here partly to fulfill your responsibility to thank Allah and to praise Allah. That's the behavior of a hero, a thankful person. I also recognize that you're here with the hope for a better future for you and for your kids and for this society and for all people on earth. And that's also hope is part of the behavior of a hero. And you're also intent on making sure that you fulfill your religious personal responsibility. So a hero is someone who is sitting here right now with the thought of recognizing that I have some weaknesses, I have some things that pull me down, but I have more trust and faith and hope for the future that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered me to create, that I want to be part of it. So I want you to think like heroes as you leave today, because you really are heroes. I'm not exaggerating by using that word. See, if you walk out in the street right now, and you ask an average person, an average person in any city in America, have you been through, on average, have you been through what most of us in this room have been through to get here? Some of us have been through civil wars, many years of civil wars. Some of us have survived dramatic events that threatened their lives. Some of us have survived economic disasters. Some of us have survived the loss of close family members. Some of us have survived the inability to learn, unavailability of education. Some of us have survived malnutrition to get here. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought all of us, heroes, to be in one room, sitting together. Now I have one question for you. Mr. Hero, with your brother hero next to you on the left, with your brother hero sitting next to you on the right, hand in hand, what do you think you can do? This is the challenge. And this is the promise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought us here, not for a vain reason, such as putting more money in our pocket. We are much more important than this. كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ. You have been made into the best nation that has been brought forth for all mankind. Prophet ﷺ says, تَكَاثَرُوا فَإِنِّي مُبَاهٍ بِكُمُ الْأُمَمَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Multiply, and my interpretation of that hadith is that multiplying good deeds, right? Not just multiplying children. Multiply because I shall be proud of you on the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to be proud of us as a community, as an ummah. كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ. We have been brought forth for the benefit of mankind. And we are part of this ummah. Or we're sitting in the cart while others are pushing that cart. Inshallah, all of us here are heroes, and all of us aspire to be heroes, despite our personal weaknesses, our personal doubts, our demons that are causing us to suspect that we're worthless, that we're useless, that we don't have enough resources, that we're not capable. I'm going to close by leaving you with one story. I was sharing it with my brother, Dr. Wahid, last night. About 25 years ago, 1994, 24 years ago, there was a small group. I used to live in Minneapolis. There was a small group of us who had very little children, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, a small group, right? And we decided that it was time to do something for our kids. So we gathered a number of other parents, and we found that we have about 30 to 40 kids who needed some schooling, who needed some sort of environment. So collectively, 6 of us, four brothers, including myself, alhamdulillah, Allah gave me the opportunity to be part of that, and 2 sisters, American sisters. We got together and we established the full-time Islamic school that has been successfully going until today. Thousands of students have graduated, alhamdulillah, in the last 24 years. But the interesting story that I want to share with you, and I want you to walk out with this, is the story of my soul brother. I call him my soul brother, Brother Amir. You probably will never meet him. He's a Tunisian brother. We were 6 of us in that meeting room in the preparation session, trying to get the school off the ground, trying to, even before it starts. I was tasked with running that meeting, so I asked the question. I said, we need some funds. We need a seed, amount of money to at least, buy some whiteboards and, markers and some papers and, a vacuum machine to clean after classes and so on. So I suggested that the 6 of us sitting in that room each put $1,000. Before, as soon as the words exited my mouth, I regretted it because I was the only one full-time employed in that meeting. And the words came out before I had the chance to speak, to think of what I said. And I thought seriously of retrieving, and said, no, forget that proposal. Before I said anything to withdraw my proposal, all of them agreed. All of them agreed. Three of my brothers are students, and the 2 ladies were married to students. So all of us were really economically except myself, alhamdulillah, was full-time employed. All of them agreed. 1,000. Alhamdulillah. Meeting closed, and I'm keeping my eye on this specific brother, Amir. He's truly a prince, Amir. And as soon as the meeting closed, I rushed to him and I said, I know you can't make it. Forget it. I'll take care of it. He says, no, I insist. He says, I'll take care of it. I'll get the $1,000, but give me 1 month. I said, Amir, you have 2 kids. You're living in student housing. You're barely able to eat. I know the situation. He says, no, I'll take care of it. Just give me 1 month. I said, fine, I'll cover you for 1 month. 1 month later, Amir walks in. 1 month later, Amir walks in, hands me the $1,000. I said, Amir, what did you do? He says, Allah provided. No, I said, no. Amir, what did you do? He says, I found a job, overnight cashier, at a grocery store in the worst part of Minneapolis. The worst part of Minneapolis, they needed a nighttime cashier in a really bad neighborhood, to be honest with you. He took that job, made the $1,000, and brought it after 1 month. And because of serious actions, who believed and hoped for a better future, like the actions of my brother Amir, the school, alhamdulillah, is still going successful until today. So if you want sustainability, before you leave today, tell yourself that I need to make this type of committed action is a secret pact between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I want to add something positive to this community. If you don't necessarily want this community, any other Muslim community, but be part of the communal group that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes as kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nas. You are the best ummah to be brought forth to all mankind. Make yourself a promise that you're going to be part of that positive movement. You're going to help push the cart. You're not going to be just sitting in the cart. Just one action, a secret pact with sincerity. You don't have to tell anybody, you don't have to share it with anybody, just make it a secret between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then carry it out. Because through that sincere action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts the blessing, and inshallah you may see results in your life, or you may see it on the day after you pass. Join me in dua, inshallah. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما اعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت انك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين المعاصي ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا. اللهم متعنا بأسماعنا وأبصارنا وقوتنا ما أحييتنا واجعله الوارث منا واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به يا أرحم الراحمين ولا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافك ولا يرحمنا. اللهم تقبل منا واعف عنا واغفر لنا واجعلنا من المخلصين
واجعلنا من الصادقين، واجعلنا من المقبولين. اللهم آمين، اللهم آمين، اللهم آمين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله وأقم الصلاة.
اعمل شوي بان هيك.